I see you. Okay, today our lesson revolves around finding area of quadrilaterals. And we want to find the area of quadrilaterals when we don't necessarily know the length. So just to review, when we look at this first square here, hopefully we all know this square has the same length and width. And then when we want to find the area, we take the length times the width to find how much space is taking up in here. You should know that because this length is 2 centimeters, this length is also 2 centimeters because it's a square and all the sides are congruent. Therefore, finding the area, most of us know, the area is length times the width. So here we say 2 times 2 is 4. And then centimeters times centimeters is centimeters squared. Okay, so that was easy. Now we want to look at a square where we don't necessarily know its sides. So in this original square, we had to have this length and this length. So looking here, we have to know what is the distance of this length. Well, we know that from here it's n, and from here it's n. So this length right here is going to be this length plus this length. So that would give us n plus n. Okay? So length here is n plus n. We can also shorten that because they're both n's. We can shorten that to 2n. So n plus n is 2n. Because this is really a 1 here, and this is really a 1 here, but we don't see it. So 1 plus 1 equals 2n. Or for tomorrow's activity, you could just leave it n plus n if you'd like to, if you don't want to simplify. Seeing this as a square, again, this is n plus the length of n, so together we would have n plus n, or 2n. So when finding our area, we have the length, which is 2n, times the width, which is 2n, and together we can just simplify that as 2n squared. So 2. So we can leave that 2n squared, or we can finish it up and square what's inside. The square goes to each piece inside the parentheses. So you hopefully know 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. And then n squared, we don't know what n is, so we just write that as n squared. So looking at this area, to recap, we said this was n plus n, or 2n, n plus n, or 2n. We multiplied 2n by 2n. Because they're the same, we can say it's 2n squared. And then the square of 2 is 4, and the square of n is n squared. Okay? Let's look at this example down here. Again, we have a square, and this length is n right to here, and then we know this is 5. So together that's just n plus 5. Okay? Same thing here. This length is n plus the length of 5. So again, we would say this length is n plus 5. So to find the area, we would say the length, which we'll put in parentheses so we can keep it together, n plus 5. And then we would multiply that by the width, which is also n plus 5. And we can simplify this, because they're the same thing, we can just say that's n plus 5. And because we're multiplying together, we can say that's n plus 5 squared. Okay? Because it's the same times the same. So we can just say that's squared. Now later on in the year, we'll learn how to multiply these two, they're called polynomials or binomials, together to actually work that out. But for today's purpose, we're just going to keep it in simplified form. Okay? So let's look over at rectangles. Rectangles, again, we have length times width. So if this is 2 inches and this is 8 inches, we know the area is going to be 2 times 8, or a total of 16. And then inches times inches is inches squared. Okay? So again, we want to look at the same thing down below. We have the same thing. We know that the length from here to here is 8. and then this is n. So we know it's n from here to here. We don't know what it is, but we know it's n. And then we know it's 8 from here to here. So together, that's n plus 8 for this entire length. And we know this is a half. So again, for area, we know it's the length, which is a half, times the width, which is n plus 8. Okay? If we wanted to simplify that even more, I could say 1 times n plus 8 is n plus 8. And then we can put the whole thing, whoops, over 2. That looks really ugly, doesn't it? Sorry. So let's try that again. So we would say 1 times n plus 8 is n plus 8. And then if you put that over a fraction, we'd have 2 times 1, which is 2. So again, we can leave it this way. But either way is correct. And that would give me, again, the area of this rectangle. So the biggest thing we need to do tomorrow is you need to understand that these lengths of unknowns get put together, okay? So if this is n and this is 5, the length is n plus 5. We don't know what n is, but whatever it is, we add 5 to it, and that would give me the total length. So if I told you n was 7, we'd have 7 plus 5, and the whole length here would be 12. And then you'd have 12 times 12, which is 24. But as it is, we don't know what that n is. Same thing here. This length is a certain number, and then this is 8. So we might say, okay, let's say n is 3. So 3 plus 8 would give me a length of 11. But we don't know what this is, so we leave it as n. Okay? So the biggest thing to know is that we're going to add these lengths together, and then area is length times width. Okay? So you should have a couple of notes on that, and then I am going to leave you with one to try on your own. So I'd like you to finish up this example down here and tell me what the area is for this rectangle right here. And Flash with his mighty shield. We'll see you tomorrow.
This next part is not required, but if you'd like to find out how cool my shield is, stay tuned.
Hey guys, it's Morgan. So from Thor's hammer to Iron Man's armor, these heroes are definitely used to working with some heavy metal. One of the hardest elements featured in the Marvel Universe has got to be vibranium. Captain America's shield was created using this amazing material. But what would it take to create that shield in real life? You're about to find out. That's where George comes in, the owner of the factory. He's used to dealing with all sorts of heavy metals. What's going on, George? How you doing, Morgan? Good. So what kind of metals does your factory produce?
We do a little bit of everything, from aluminum to steel. Depends on what you want, we'll build it.
If we wanted to get a metal that's as close to vibranium as possible to make something like Cap's shield, what would you suggest?
I'd probably go with aluminum. It's pretty strong when you need it to be, and you can work with it to form whatever kind of shapes you need.
What kind of specialty tools would you use to cut the metal into the different shapes and designs that we need to make Cap's shield?
We use what's called a plasma cutter. It uses an electric current and air pressure to cut the metal.
I'm excited. Let's get into it.
Safety is imperative around here, and we're going to go ahead and get you geared up and ready to go.
All right, I'm ready. I got all my safety gear on, feeling very safe. So it looks like we have the iconic Captain America star right here. So what's next, George?
We got a template right here. We're going to go ahead and trace it out on our piece of sheet metal. We're going to cut it out and get it ready to put on the shield.
Take me through the plasma cutter. What actually cuts the metal?
It's a combination of electricity and air pressure. The electricity melts the metal, and the air pressure pulls it away from the material.
All right, George, so we got our pieces all cut out. You ready to put the shield together?
Let's do this.
We got a shield-like shape forming here. What's the next step?
The next step, Morgan, is go ahead and weld it all together.
So this is 4 different pieces that you're going to weld into one shield.
That's correct. We're using this tool right here to melt all the individual pieces together. It forms one unified piece.
Wow. All right, so we're missing the main piece, the iconic Captain America star. We cut it out a little bit earlier. I think you know where that goes.
We have a center hole lined up on our shield to make sure that star is right where we need it to be.
Looks amazing. Well, George, Captain America uses the shield to deflect all sorts of oncoming attacks from the bad guys. I think we need a handle.
I think you're right, Morgan.
One one more step in the process. We need to put the arm brace on.
What's left? Just gonna clean it up and get it ready for paint, Morgan.
Wow, that is awesome.
Agreed.
All right, our Captain Shield is off to the paint shop.
You want my shield? Here it is.
So here it is, the final painted product, and this would make even Captain America proud.
Never surrender.